This husky is clearly not thirsty at all, yet it insists on occupying the only water source. Whenever a puppy tries to approach, it fiercely drives them away. All the dogs are afraid of the husky and don't even dare to look at it, only the newcomer doesn't give it any face. The clever Buck stomped hard on the ice, breaking it. The other puppies were instantly attracted. Seeing Buck stomp a few more times, the dogs immediately understood and happily ran over to drink. Buck generously shared, which made the husky on the side very unhappy, but it could only vent its anger on the most honest puppy. In the subsequent work, the husky deliberately caused trouble by increasing the speed to the maximum, making it impossible for the newcomer Buck to keep up. Seeing Buck thrown out of the team, the husky swung its tail like a dragon. Due to inertia, Buck was heavily slammed into a branch. The husky was very happy to see this. In the evening, the owner gave each puppy a fish, including the newcomer Buck. But just as Buck was about to eat, he saw the husky bullying the smallest dog in the team again. The husky snatched the fish from the little dog in one bite. Seeing the extremely sad little golden retriever, Buck couldn't bear it. He placed his own fish in front of the puppy and nudged it with his nose to avoid any misunderstanding. Then he walked away gracefully, leaving only a handsome back view. In the following days, Buck gradually integrated into the team. One day, the female owner was scouting ahead when suddenly the ice beneath her feet cracked. The female owner fell into the water. The river was icy cold, and a person couldn't survive long in such an environment. Worse still, the current carried her under the ice. At the critical moment, Buck rushed out. He paddled his little legs in the water and successfully reached the unconscious female owner. Then Buck sprinted at full speed, but the ice was too thick. He could only keep searching for weak spots in the ice from the water. Finally, Buck seized the opportunity and successfully rescued the female owner. But due to exhaustion, Buck was swept under the ice by the current. Blackie stood on the ice, anxiously and desperately calling out for Buck. Hearing the voice, he quickly found the spot and pulled out a dagger, striking the ice with all his might, but after just a few strikes, the dagger broke in half. He couldn't believe that this dog, who had just joined the sled team less than 2 days ago, would risk its life to save his wife. Seeing a stick handed over by someone nearby, Blackie grabbed it without thinking and started smashing the ice. But suddenly, he seemed to remember something and turned his head. Wasn't this the Buck he had been thinking about? Blackie cried tears of joy, watching their intimate actions, while the husky on the side was so angry its mouth was crooked. Even the female owner, who had previously disliked Buck, unprecedentedly rewarded him with a chicken leg, but this made the husky feel threatened. While resting at night, Buck accidentally saw a rabbit. Instinctively, he chased after it, and the other puppies followed suit. Fortunately, Buck was agile and soon caught the rabbit. After making sure the other puppies saw it, he slowly let go. But unexpectedly, the rabbit didn't run far. The husky provocatively looked at Buck. To secure his position as the leader, he had to eliminate this major threat, but Buck, who had been pampered since childhood, was quickly knocked to the ground. The other dogs couldn't stand it and started calling out for Buck. In that moment, a part of Buck's inner ambition was awakened. He slowly stood up and bit the husky's hind leg. Buck won. Knowing he had lost, the husky left with his tail between his legs, leaving only a lonely back view. No one ever saw him again, and no one knew where he went. The next day, early in the morning, Buck confidently took the lead position. Blackie was unaware of what had happened the previous night. He dragged Buck to the back of the team and pulled the oldest dog, One Eye, to the front, intending to make him the leader. But One Eye was very reluctant. On one side was his master, and on the other was his idol. He didn't want to offend either, so he simply lay on the ground and acted stubborn. Blackie had no choice. Time was too tight. He could only let Buck try. Unexpectedly, under Buck's leadership, the atmosphere of the entire sled team changed, and the dogs cooperated seamlessly. They moved so fast that it left people in the dust. Blackie shouted with joy that at this speed, they would definitely reach the post office on time. However, Blackie's loud voice triggered an avalanche. He quickly ordered Buck to turn left, but Buck didn't listen to him and instead followed his own instincts. He found the right moment and led the team into a cave with a swift slide, successfully avoiding the avalanche. They arrived at the post office on time, although their arrival was somewhat dramatic, but so what? They had already delivered the longing of distant relatives into people's hearts. The next day, the sled team set off again with replies. At this moment, an old man hurriedly ran over to stop them. Buck, strong and sudden, made a sharp stop, causing Blackie, who couldn't react in time, to fall flat on his face. Immediately, Buck took the letter and handed it to the mistress. The old man recognized him at this point, squatted down, and spoke to him. Then the man and the dog parted ways. Who could have thought that they would reunite soon after? Just like that, more than 2 months passed. A letter from the south suddenly broke the silence. The sled team was disbanded, and they were sold to a greedy gold prospector. Ignoring the old man's advice, the prospector insisted on setting off as the ice began to melt. The melting snow revealed the grass, creating enormous resistance that exhausted the dogs. They struggled to pull the sled forward. Suddenly, the little golden retriever, exhausted, collapsed to the ground, dragging the entire team down a slope. The dogs used all their strength to hold onto the rope, but the prospector got up and started whipping them. Buck had no choice but to continue leading the team forward, but ahead lay the melting glacier. If they continued, they would surely die. Buck was unwilling to go any further and had no strength left, but the prospector wouldn't have it, pulling out a gun to deal with him. Fortunately, an old man arrived in time to save Buck. The prospector, however, continued with the remaining dogs that still had some strength. The old man could do nothing but watch their pitiful eyes. 2 whole days passed before Buck woke up from his coma. He walked outside and saw that the glacier below the mountain had completely melted. He didn't know if his companions were dead or alive and could only helplessly look up and laugh. At this moment, the prospector returned, and with a swing of his fist, knocked the old man down. Before the old man could get up, he kicked him again. Buck couldn't stand seeing his savior being bullied and charged in, knocking the prospector to the ground. Because he was carrying a gun, the prospector was thrown out by the crowd, while the old man stared at a certain spot. He drank 1 glass of wine after another, and Buck wrinkled his nose at the strong smell. He sat up and followed the old man's gaze to see an old photograph of his deceased son. After speaking, the old man poured another glass of wine. Buck immediately walked over and knocked the glass over. While the old man bent down to pick up the glass, Buck grabbed the bottle and buried it in the snow, then sat on it, refusing to move no matter how hard the old man pushed. Helpless, the old man began to tell Buck his sad story. It turned out that today was his deceased son's birthday. To escape the pain, he hid in this deserted place, numbing himself with alcohol. Buck quietly accompanied him. Perhaps at this moment, they had already become the most important things in each other's lives. The next morning, the old man had already adjusted himself. Rummaged through the room and quickly found a map that recorded the places he and his son had once wanted to visit. Although his son was no longer there, the old man decided to make the journey to fulfill his own regrets. So, he packed his bags, and he and his dog set off in a canoe. The old man treated Buck as his best friend. They shared the boat and slept together, drifting along the river until they finally found the legendary wilderness. But they never expected that the gold prospector was as tenacious as a cockroach. He found the old man's residence and discovered the map that had been left behind. With a wicked smile, it was unclear whether he was happy to find the treasure or to finally get his revenge. After a long time, the old man and Buck found a small cabin in the woods. After a brief rest, they settled in. The next day, the old man took Buck to the river to bathe. He dived in with a splash and emerged with a shiny gold nugget in his hand. Excitedly, he showed it to Buck, but the little dog didn't understand what it was. Still, he imitated the old man, diving into the water and coming up with a stone. The old man looked at him and smiled helplessly. Then he continued panning for gold. Buck put down the stone and suddenly fished out a gold nugget the size of a fist, but the old man, focused on panning, didn't notice. So, Buck threw the big nugget back into the water and brought out a small gold nugget instead. Suddenly, a white figure flashed through the distant jungle. Curious, Buck immediately gave chase but was blocked by a brown bear while crossing the river. Frightened, he quickly retreated and took a long detour to escape. Deep in the forest, he turned around and saw a beautiful white wolf. Buck was instantly stunned and raised his paw to greet the white wolf, but unexpectedly, the next second, he saw paw prints on the ground identical to his own. Buck fell into deep thought, wondering if he might be the same kind as the white wolf. After returning home, Buck lost his appetite and could only think about seeing his goddess again. One day, he went to the path where the white wolf often passed and happened to encounter the wolf pack crossing the river. Unexpectedly, the wolf king stepped into the rushing river and was swept away. In an instant, he was carried away by the current. The white wolf and the other companions could only anxiously watch from the shore. Fortunately, a large log lay across the river, stopping the wolf king. At this moment, Buck suddenly rushed over, using all his strength to lift the log and successfully rescue the wolf king. The white wolf immediately looked at Buck with new admiration. They played and chased each other in the forest every day. Unknowingly, Buck learned to hunt on his own. Whatever he couldn't finish, he brought home to share with the old man. Sometimes it was a wild chicken, sometimes a big fish. The old man understood that Buck had found his own kind, so he packed his bags and said goodbye to Buck. Although Buck was reluctant, he followed his instincts and walked into the depths of the forest. But that night, the persistent gold prospector found the cabin. He deliberately knocked over a kerosene lamp, setting the cabin ablaze. The old man finally woke up and fought desperately with the prospector. Just as the prospector grabbed the gold and was about to finish him off, Buck suddenly jumped down from the roof, returning to his true nature. He was no longer afraid of the man's stick. After that, Buck fully integrated into the wolf pack, but he often missed the old man.